Oh. Have a good one, Freddie.
Okay.
That's it, baby. That's it.
Thank you. Good man.
Freddie, the costume guy, the greatest place in Brockton, the greatest person in Brockton. What's the place? Behind me, it's the Brockton Public Library, and this is 1 North Main. I'm your host, Jay Miller, and today it's an action-packed half hour. Let me tell you, we are here at the library throughout. What are we doing? We are following a STEM event sponsored by the NAACP of Greater Brockton. This event was so power-packed, we fit it into a half-hour show. We will also be talking about the history of the library, give you some little nuggets to chew on, think about the great history of not only our city, but this fine building. So I want you to sit back, grab a book if you want to, but relax and see what your community, the City of Champions, has to offer. Did she make the shirts or did you?
We made them together. Chocolate. Gotta love it.
Hello and welcome to 1 North Main.
I grew up in Brockton, and I didn't grow up with a lot of money or anything, but I was very inventive, very interested in technology, but I didn't have anybody to kind of help me or guide me, so I had to work very hard to learn to build things and design. So I said, if I get really good at it, I'm going to come back and share my knowledge with other people that may not have like a dad that works at Microsoft or something, so I wanted it to be more accessible. So mostly just to share my passion with people that I think might take advantage of it and give them access to things they may not see, day to day.
What would I see here that I don't see day to day?
So, 3D printers are pretty common now. They're pretty ubiquitous. It's getting more common every day. But what's not is some of the design, some of the moving things we've done, some of the models. So, for example, aside from just solid things, we can actually do very fine mechanical things. A lot of prints you don't necessarily see things like that. And then you can take that idea and actually extend it. So then you can start making three-dimensional things that are much larger than the printer by using the same technique and making these node systems and other ideas. So it shows the knowledge kind of spreading and being used in other applications. Aside from just a box, of course you can print out a Lego, but it's bigger than that, just like this model. Another thing too I'd like to show is exactly how it happens. So how do we actually design this stuff? You can manipulate it just by dragging and dropping. We can cut a volume into this shape that could be printed. When we do manipulate these objects, when we change the size or anything, you can see that it tells you the millimeters. So we use, another thing, is we'll use calipers, and I like to show people what these are and how to take exact measurements, because if you're going to design something, most things that really count, they have to fit in together, work together, interlock, whether it's gears or just a manifold to hold something. So it's just the full picture. Instead of just pushing a button and getting a piece of plastic off of there, I like to stress the whole process of creation and kind of in the inventive side of it. So that's the main thing. And of course, the plastic is corn-based polylactic acid, so it's biodegradable. It's not Lego plastic. It doesn't have fumes if it burns. It's way better for the environment. So that's just a bonus. And the thing about the technology now is it's coming down in cost exponentially, inversely so, I guess, in terms of the ubiquitousness. This print, very fine print, very simple mechanical piece, part of a robotic system, was done on a $120 3D printer. Before, you'd have to get something like this 7 years ago. It cost $2,000. So now look, it's so much cheaper, like all technology, where it's getting into more people's hands. And then finally, aside from the plastic, you can actually also convert things to this is my head in solid bronze. So you can actually take that plastic and convert it to other mediums or media, and you're not limited. I like to stress that. Most people think, well, I have an idea, it can't be plastic. The prototype can be. So that's pretty much that. And it's one thing to have an idea, it's another to be able to hold it in your hand and share it with people, because some folks, it's hard for them to describe it. But if you could have it, if you could just say, you know what, this was my idea, it's way easier for people to conceptualize and also join in and co-invent when you actually have it. In terms of all these things with STEM, it's a wonderful experience for people to get their hands on and experience these things before making a big investment or being in a facility that has access. It's really bringing it all into the classroom and into the communities through libraries and, of course, public schools and things like that. And I think it's wonderful because seeing is believing, and the tangibility is of holding it in your hand, whether you're printing or seeing it. Even just seeing it on YouTube isn't enough. It really inspires people to get going and jump in, and where they may have had some reservations, or maybe they're not strong in math. They would think maybe this is out of reach. It's not. This is kind of a standard, pretty ubiquitous MakerBot. It's essentially a lot of simple technologies, like all technology stacked on top. Think of it like a hot glue gun that has a platform that drops. So as it's printing, it's just fusing, and it's not hot. The whole thing's not hot, just the top layer. And it's tiny, tiny little layers. And some printers can do 1/4 the thickness of a human hair, and you can kind of see you can kind of hear it, the scratchiness of the layers as it prints. That's adjustable. The finer, the longer. But essentially, you model it on the computer. You can send it over wireless. You can put it on an SD card, and then it will print it for you. One other thing you can control is if you look at this at the light, there's a honeycomb structure. I don't know if you can see it, but we can control how solid an object is. See, with other manufacturing techniques, you couldn't get in there and do that. If it was a CNC machine, if you're removing material, you can't get inside and then make it whole again. That's pretty fascinating. So we can control buoyancy and density. This machine does all of that. And then after the model's done, you can take this step, and it's called slicing, where you get a 3D model, and it converts it into all it is a series of steps that the printer motors follow, and it expenses so much plastic from this dowel that comes down like a hot glue gun. And it just does it over and over again, very precisely, and you end up with a 3D shape with very, very simple technology. So, and the nice thing about this is the motors that power this, if we were going to replace these motors, I mean, they're like $15, $12. Like it's very, very maintainable. That's a big piece of this. I really like that about it. And this printer, this model, this maker was a bit controversial because it came from the open source community, and they packaged it and commercialized it. But I think they did it a service because it became wider spread. So there, you have some people on the fence about this particular, but in the end, here it is. You're experiencing it, just as well as we are, and it's a great technology. So I'm looking forward to it to continue to evolve. Along with the 3D printing, one thing that worth mentioning is that the knowledge that you build up to do the modeling, it's not just used for printing. You can also use it. We have a virtual reality setup down here using the HTC Vive. The same models you can actually bring into the virtual reality space with little to no extra work. And rather than wait, because it can take minutes, hours to print something, you can experience it in the virtual reality of the world or realm or simulation faster. So you can actually see mistakes that you may have seen holding it virtually. So that knowledge goes a long way. Like when you learn a programming language, it's not just to make, say, a game or a simulation or calculate a bowler score. It's really universal knowledge that kind of passes through all the various, applications. So just as, the knowledge gleaned from learning to model and things can be used for 3D printing, you can not only use that same model in the VR space, but in this case, what he's doing is he's actually modeling something in VR, using the virtual reality itself, the tools, HTC Vive, to draw in 3D. There's even some animation, but you can draw structures, you can do CAD work. In his case, he's doing some 3D art, and it tracks him throughout the room as he moves around the room. It actually will track his position. Unlike some of the ones on cell phones, this is way more immersive, and it uses infrared light to see where he is. So in reality, you can go right from this, design something, and then send it right to a 3D printer. So that's quite interesting. All the technology kind of ties together where you might think, okay, virtual reality, 3D printing, how are those connected? Well, it turns out quite the integration.
You can't say that on television, come on. Oh man, I love pumpkins, I love the autumn, but I love the Brockton Public Library more. Did you know that Brockton was once called North Bridgewater? And in 1867, that's when the library was first established. Awesome. Now, speaking of awesome, we are going to the STEM event that we covered here in our fair city. The NAACP of Greater Brockton has done an incredible job of doing outreach throughout the community, and they did it here for a STEM event. young adults learned about and produced works of science, technology, and mathematics that will blow your mind. Check it out.
Right behind me, this is called the Experience One. So our brand is called Overlook. So our brand is to bring those who are overlooked together to be seen by those who are overlooked them. So we bring these to our fashion shows and other events like that. And our models will usually stand directly right in the middle of it. And the light that you see on the controller actually lights up around the whole entire ring. This whole ring is 3D printed between 80 and 100 parts, and this is our third version of this. We had 2 versions before, and every single version changed something, and every single version we learned something from. So this is like our most efficient one. This one takes like 20 minutes to set up versus the first one took us 2 hours to set up. Started in 2016, we had our first fashion show, and when we was doing our first fashion show, we made like a big huge wooden stage because we wanted to set ourselves apart from everybody else. So when we made this big huge stage, it was fine and the show was fine, but it wasn't too efficient. We couldn't transport it, it was too heavy and stuff like that. So then we started getting into 3D printed stuff like this, and our emoji that we always use is a circle. So we went with that same type of thing for this concept for this stage. And the first stage that we had, it took 2 hours to set up, and that one was way much bigger than that. Each cell took 12 hours to print. Now when we're on the third version of this, each of these cells, this is my hand right now, each cell of this one takes 4 hours to print. So we're way much down in production. Right now we can print 3 of these stages before we only could print 1 of the other one. As our brand, we really want to take like clothing and other experiences like that and collaborate with 3D printing and other experiences like that, you know? So if that's AR experiences, that's 3D printing stuff, we just want to be able to not just base ourselves as a clothing brand, we want to be like an all-around brand. If that's bringing people 3D printed accessories, 3D printed stuff on their clothing, like on my sweater, it's a 3D printed and it says Overlooked on the sweater, and that's part of the zipper as well. So we 3D printed that as a concept that we're working on, and that's just some type of stuff that we're just collabing the 3D printed with the clothing and the fashion. So this is another way we can collab our fashion when we bring this to fashion shows and such like this. Because when we have our models directly in the middle, the light shines on them and everyone's looking at this right here. And it's pretty cool because we can shoot videos and other stuff like that, and we can put a camera on the edge of it and it can film a 360 video around the person in the middle. So the possibilities with this is endless. We see this at like concerts and artists using that at their events and venues and stuff like that. So we're trying to get it into like work with different artists to have it at like venues, concerts and stuff like that. So and like music videos, if someone, like when I was competing in science fair, I won a $7,500 award from MathWorks. So like in the future, we're thinking about actually making one of these for a MathWorks lobby. So we're trying to get connected with MathWorks again and see if we can actually gift them from our brand one of these in their lobby. So we can see these in lobbies and malls, outside events. We had another concept, we want to put this in a lake, but the legs would be inside the lake and the ring will be on top of the water. So the possibilities with this is really endless. We're just trying to get at it step by step. When I started with AXO, it allowed me to think outside the box, and I had to basically do more. When I first created my first science fair project, it was cool and everything, but it didn't really like help anybody, it didn't really change anything. So I always had that in my head. I always have to change something, have to try to do something new that someone else is doing. And if it can help someone with something, then that's also a plus as well. So with stuff like this, we're just trying to basically make clothing not just like clothing, you know? We're trying to make our brand stand out way much more and get into a whole different type of market.
In 2018, I really think it's just drive. You really gotta love what you're doing and really want it for yourself. You just gotta want better for whatever you're doing. It's just a lot of, seeing what they don't see, because a lot of times you're gonna get setbacks and little things that push you back. Like us, with the brand, we've had many things. Like, we tried to get the stage to House of Blues for Jaden Smith, and then they were like, it's a creative, it's dope, we've never seen anything like it, but it just didn't fit what they were looking for. And we were happy that they liked what we made and brought to the table, but it was just a little setback of them not actually being able to put the stage that we created in the actual venue. Just little things like that. We tried to get it to Dartmouth for a few events, similar things, trying to get it into fashion shows, little events, and they would always be like, all right, yeah, we love the idea, we love what you're doing, but then time would come, final event, they'll push back. They'll be like, yeah, we can't have it for safety reasons, personal reasons, just so many setbacks. This is like our third stage. The first stage we made, it took like weeks, so much amount of time, so much work put into it, versus our third one now, we've put in so much work, but we've managed to cut the time on how much we use to create it, the timing to create it, how quick the setup time is. Just so many elements of us just trial and error. We built that first stage, carrying it to venues. We'd be like, we need to rent out 2 U-Hauls. We'd be like, dude, we can't afford this. Just little things like that. And then we make the second stage, and this one fits in my mom's car. I get everywhere with it. I don't got to rent out anything. Just little things that people don't see that we have to battle, like pieces. What we use is PLA, so we print with 3D printing. The whole stage is made out of 3D printing, and like PLA has setbacks, so basically in the sun it shrinks. So imagine we had the car running, it's in the sunshine, we have the pieces in the trunk. In an hour, one of those pieces would have shrunk, and then suddenly it just doesn't fit. The whole thing goes apart. Just little things. We had setbacks. We brought it to one event. Something like that exactly happened. The piece shrunk while we were in the car driving there. So we had to learn to just print extras, always be prepared for the unexpected. And the reason we never stop is because we see further than what everybody else sees in us. Our vision is 10 years ahead. We already know what we're going to be doing in the future. It's just a matter of getting it done and showing everybody else our potential. It's just so much to it. We try to put everything, we try to come up with a bunch of different designs. We always make little booklets of just thousands of designs, not just from one of us, but from all of us a part of the team. It's without each other, I feel like we wouldn't progress, because there's always times, one of us will probably be like, this setback is kind of too much. Do you think we can go further? And then another one of us is right there being picking us up yo bro, we're definitely doing this. We're the only ones doing this. There's nobody in our age bracket, even our social group, people that are kind of interested where we're interested in, fashion-wise, that are thinking of designing stages for people. We're really trying to be future forward with everything we're doing and see how far it can take us. I see it at weddings, concerts. I see a big one coming down from the ceiling. I want to see it at business corporations displaying their daily tasks for the day. Wedding events in Cancun where it's Stargate. Just a bunch of crazy different things. And it's not even just this. We have other designs that top this by 10. This is probably if this is our worst design, there's only a world of things that we could design and develop that would blow your mind. That's why it's this is just a little bit. Imagine somebody gives us 100,000 and our budget suddenly becomes printing out of glass or printing out of all metal, steel. It's just, the possibilities are endless. If you guys want to get in touch with us, we're very social people. We're not famous, We have social media, Instagram, overlkd.com. You can reach out to us on Facebook. We have our website, of course, which is alwaysoverlook.com. Our emails are going to be brad@overlook.com, I'm dex@overlook.com. You can reach us anytime. We're always checking our emails. We're open to coming to different events in different cities, whatever we can do to kind of connect with everybody.
1912. This building was erected in 1912, 1913, and the Brockton Public Library, the main branch as we know it, was opened on June 10th, 1913. Where did they get the money? They asked Andrew Carnegie for $75,000. When he learned that wasn't enough, he ponied up an additional amount totaling $110,000. The library's been here ever since, over 100 years. Now, let's go back to this STEM event. Words cannot describe what you're about to witness. Check it out.
I'm here with some of my STEM research students from Massasoit Community College. We have kind of a unique program that was made possible by a very generous grant from the state of Massachusetts. We have enough funding to keep an ongoing research program running continually year-round. So I keep between 15 and 20 students doing real hardcore inquiry-based research as freshman and sophomore level college students, which is very rare. So usually you don't get anywhere near research until you're a junior, but these guys, when they're ready to transfer and finish their bachelor's degree, have already got a year and a half or 2 years of solid research experience under their belt. We have very many different career paths amongst our research students. Some of them are biology majors, of course. Some are chemistry majors. Some are computer science majors. But our research project is based on our local ecology. It asks the question of how do the ways that humans use the land that we occupy, and how do those, let me back up. So how do human land use practices affect our local ecosystem? So we look at water quality, we look at what kind of plants grow in our local ecosystem, but we focus on native pollinators. Basically, if all of the bees die, a bunch of humans will die because the ecosystem will collapse. So we're trying to establish if the environmentally friendly, sustainable land use practices that we implement on our campus actually benefit the local ecosystem. We have between 4 and 5 mentors at any given time. Everything that we do is inquiry-based. We teach them how to have good experimental design. Our bee database of collected and preserved specimens has almost 10,000 specimens in it now, so it's approaching a real scientific contribution to monitor our native pollinator communities here in southeastern Massachusetts. Other bee researchers have shown a lot of interest in coming to see what we're doing and look at the data that we've collected. And we actually participate in national ecology meetings. We had 7 presentations at this year's Ecology Society of America meeting in New Orleans. So we absolutely keep the standard of real, publishable research that contributes to the scientific progress. Our students are very much ahead of where a typical junior would be in an undergraduate program. They've learned to do experimental design, they've learned to read the scientific literature, they've learned how to present data in a public forum. We work a lot on critical thinking and just general professionalism. They aren't told what to do, they are told what to accomplish, and we help them figure out how to be self-motivated and accomplish things without having their hands held. So our goal is to have functional, independent, critical thinking students by the time they leave our program. And the results are very, very clear in where they go. They go to the top schools, they get big scholarships, and then when I hear back from them, they get good jobs. If you want to do a year or 2 at Massasoit, it's certainly a wise choice. It's cheaper, we have smaller classrooms, and you have the opportunity to learn how to do research. If you're going anywhere and you're going to college, the most important thing to remember is there's a difference in learning how to pass courses and learning how to think and learning how to accomplish things. So any experience that you can get that is hands-on and outcome-driven and not canned or coming out of a textbook will look good when you're trying to get to that next step, and it will be the thing that makes you a functional STEM student and lead to a successful STEM career. Well, here we have some of our native bee specimens. They're easy to see under the microscope. The thing that most people don't realize about the native bee community is that there's so many different varieties of native bees that most people don't even realize that they're native bees. So some of them are tiny and green and blue, and everybody recognizes honeybees and bumblebees, but there's a lot of different tiny, oddly shaped, oddly colored, different bees that are out there, and they are the organisms that pollinate the majority of the plants in our ecosystem. So if they go away, our ecosystem collapses and we're all in deep trouble. The penned and processed and stored bees are sort of our data archive, but once we identify each bee, it gets an identification number. We log where it came from, the date, the weather conditions, and it all goes into a database. so that, you know, if you want to try and figure out which type of bee is more prevalent in late July when your particular crop needs to be pollinated, you could consult our database and look at the flight season for any individual bee. We can also keep track of the year-to-year abundance, and you know, every year that we do this is another year to give us information about the long-term decline or stability of the native bee community in our area.
Good.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Oh boy. We just found it. Our back and forth. Victory. Fumble. Repeat. It always came back.
Dad!
Whoa!
You made time.
That was perfect.
Okay, here we go, throw it!
Yeah.
You probably don't remember what you told me.
Nice.
But I heard every word.
Because of you, I felt hopeless.
Because you told me you didn't like my voice, I started to not like it either.
I know it was a joke, but it still hurt me.
Because you said rude things about my work, I started to question my own voice.
Because of your negative comments online, I've almost quit doing the one thing that makes me happiest in life.
Because you shared something about me that was private, I felt embarrassed.
Because you said hi to me on the first day of school, I felt included and I knew that I was going to be okay.
Because of you, I felt wanted and not alone in this world.
Because of you sharing your story with me, I feel comfortable sharing my own.
Because you were there for me, I feel beautiful.
Because you were there when I was coming out, you helped me regain my confidence.
I'm still here today because of you.
All right, pal. Get ready for the day, buddy.
Hey, Dad. Hey, Dad. Do we have a gun?
What's that?
Do we have a gun?
Well, there you have it, Brockton. Another One North Main in the books. Special thanks to the Brockton Public Library, their director, Paul Engel, as well as the NAACP of Greater Brockton, led by Phyllis Ellis. Make sure to check out your branches. There are 3 branches of the Brockton Public Library. We have the main branch behind us, obviously on Main Street. Then we have the east and west branches with new hours. Remember, new hours, and we want you to check it out. So we're driving you to that website. To learn more about Brockton Community Access, visit our website at bcatv.org. You can also check out the YouTube page, youtube.com/BCATV. We'll see you next time. /TheBrocktonChannels, all one word. For executive producer Mark Lindy and producer Aaron Tebow, I'm Jay Miller. Go read a book.